Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast. Today, I have Michael Johnson with me. He's the CEO of Johnson & Associates Strategic Planning and Consulting Firm. So, Michael, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for, and sorry, again, I'm switching things, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining here. And just to kind of kick it off, what are you doing these days? Like, what's your life like these days?
Ooh, great question. We're ending summer right now, so we're getting ready to gear back up with after school and getting back into school and really just diving into the third and fourth quarter of the year, trying to finish out the year really strong.
Okay, great. And again, like with sorry, with your life and so on, you're at a place where you are today. But how did you get to this place in terms of your story coming? You know, you can start with like being a teenager or being in high school. Who were you? Who were you back then?
Okay. We're going back some years. Okay.
Yeah.
So high school, teenage years, I was the typical band person. Like I was in, you named the high school band that I was a part of, jazz band. So music was a huge part of my life growing up. It probably was the foundation for the discipline that I have. I currently play 17 instruments, right?
Wow.
So that level of discipline and dedication and determination kind of laid the bedrock and the foundation for me to do what I love to do. Fast forward, went to school for music, studied at Hampton, went to Berkeley, left Berkeley, School of Music in Boston, and moved to Texas. I was in the music scene in Texas for quite a while from a performance perspective and administrative perspective until one day I realized that things are changing. And so I went back to school, got my degree, left Texas because I was the only one in Texas. So let's segue. I was the only one from my family, left the East Coast. I was the only one in Texas for a while and said, I need to get back closer to everybody where they live. So moved back close to the East Coast and transitioned from music into business. I went into the corporate space, decided the corporate space was good, but I learned that people pay for great ideas.
Yeah.
And that's what landed me here, where I am today.
Nice. So I want to kind of explore a little bit more about your music world.
Yeah.
When you were there, you said you currently play 17 different instruments.
Yes.
First, kind of like what got you into music? Like, how did you decide that you wanted to get into music? And we'll go from there, basically.
No,
Yeah.
fair. When I was a kid, my sister had a keyboard that my grandmother bought her. And so I used to sneak in her room and play it. Because I wasn't allowed in my older sister's room at all. So I used to sneak in my sister's room to kind of play her keyboard, and she would kick me out every day after school. It was hilarious, right? It kind of became our thing because I'm the youngest. She, the oldest, became our thing. Until one day she came home from school a little bit early and caught me red-handed, but didn't say anything because I was under her bed just playing a song that I had learned. And then she finally tapped me on the feet and said, hey, come here. And I was like, oh, I got caught. She's like, can you do that again? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, no, you can really play. And so that was the start of me playing piano. Used to watch this guy play the organ in church, started playing in church. That became really great until I got to junior high school. I joined the band, played trumpet, drums, and a few other instruments. And so my high school was kind of cool. Great high school, great band director, but we would stroll on instrumentation. So every semester he would call my mom and say, hey, I need Mike to stay after school and learn how to play this instrument. So fall and spring, I'd learn how to play a different instrument, whether for a concert we had coming up or a competition. And that's how I kind of just jumped into music, into the college scene. I said, hey, I'm either going to study law or I'm going to study music. They weren't paying too much into the law program at Hampton where I was going, but I did get a band scholarship and it helped me pay for school.
Nice. So you naturally got into music. Like nobody pushed you. You didn't have your parents kind of like get you into lessons and it's like, okay, you have to play piano because, this or that.
No, my first official lesson was my freshman year in college.
Wow.
Which was wild. My first official lesson on piano was my freshman year in college.
So what was college like, in music?
Well, it was a transition because I had gone from playing by ear, right, to now having to learn how to read music and play proficiently. And I never forget, I was sitting in my one of my instructors, we had private lessons. I was sitting in one of my private lessons one time, and my professor, he's reading the newspaper. I kid you not, he's reading the newspaper, and I'm playing what I think is on the sheet. He just goes, play it again. And I said, I played it right. He said, I've been playing this song for 50 years. I know what it's supposed to sound like, and that's not it. He said, play what's on the sheet, not what you think was in your head. And I was like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. This is going to be a challenge. And so it was cool. It gave me a different type of regiment and a different type of discipline. Like, whereas there was natural ability at first, I had to actually put forth the effort to learn how to read music and to study music on that level.
Was it a hard transition going from playing by ear to actually reading and then playing by notes?
Yes and no. I had to get my fingers to do what my ears and my head knew. Like playing trumpet, you're using your fingers and you're seeing the music on the page. But to do it on such a grand staff with piano, I had to kind of retrain my brain to kind of not just use one hand, but to use two as I'm reading the music across the sheet.
Because I would think that, like, if you learn how to do something by ear or kind of like learning something without learning the theory behind it, but just through experience, so it becomes second nature. But then when you're trying to do it through theory, through like, okay, book knowledge and so on, then your brain has to do like a translation, right?
Yes.
Which kind of like messes up certain things.
Yeah, it does, man. And that transition, it was wild, right? Because again, I'm used to playing what I think I hear, and he's like, no. But then for me, what ended up clicking was the correlation between the instrumentation, right? So there are certain instruments that are just, I'm trying not to go down the rabbit hole in music theory here, but there's certain instrumentations that are created in a certain key. And so once I was able to make that correlation, okay, these instruments are written in this key, this is written in this key, and this is how it relates back to the piano, I was able to kind of translate it in my head. Math is good for me, so I start seeing music, start seeing math and numbers and the computations that go with it. It makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, so it's almost like language, right? Like there's some kind of base concept. There's words, letters, phrases,
That's
whatever.
exactly
So
it.
you kind of like learn the metadata behind music, and then each instrument may have its own language, but you know that the core or the building blocks of it.
That's
right?
That's it. And so it all comes together.
Yeah. So sounds like you picked up music kind of naturally. You really liked it. What were some challenges in the music world? Like you finished college, and then what did you do with music, and what were some challenges around it?
So here was the thing. I think it was junior going into senior year. I left college originally to go on tour.
Okay.
It was one of those situations that came up, and it was, you're going to pay me to do what I'm already doing and that I'm already doing well. You're going to pay me this amount of money to do it, and I'm getting paid nothing to do it in school. Now, retrospect, I probably should have finished school, but I did end up going back, right? But at that moment, it was, wait a minute, this is a whole career. Because growing up, you don't, at least in New York, you don't really hear about musicians actually making it. Like you hear them in the club scene, or you hear them in, like trying to gig on the weekends. But this was someone who found me and said, hey, we want you to play piano, we want you to play trumpet, let's do it, let's see what you got. And so it was a pretty solid gigs, pretty solid run. And I remember, I never forget this conversation. I had an uncle who was 92, 93 at the time, right? I had finished playing and, I was back home with, my parents and, living, just being well. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going back to school. He's like, well, why not? He said, you only have a year and a half left. And I'm thinking, well, I don't want to be the older person going back to class. I don't want to, I don't want to. And he said, listen, the only difference between you and them is that when they graduate, they have to get some experience. You're going back to school with experience in your field and what you're going to do. That's the only difference. And it changed things for me dramatically.
And so you went on tour. What kind of tour was it? Or what were you playing? Certain instruments? Did you sing as well? Or was it just like
piano and trumpet? Yeah, I was playing piano and trumpet with a jazz-infused band out of New York.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did the tri-state area. We did New York, Jersey, Connecticut, some stuff in Pennsylvania, and that was pretty cool.
What was the experience like being on the band?
I learned a lot about organization. It makes me respect going to concerts a lot more because it's more than just playing the music. You really have to put on a show, right? So it's a lot that I learned going, especially at that age. I think I was in my early 20s. So I learned about the organization of music management and the organization of putting on a show each and every week and making sure that the music was done and making sure that, the band was doing licks together. And I mean licks like playing the right chords, hitting them at the same time and this was before we had programming with lighting, right? So you actually had somebody to program light. So we all had to come together and work this thing through. And so for me, being of that age, it gave me an appreciation of the artistry that goes into performances that I would have never guessed just seeing on TV and seeing in videos.
Mm-hmm. And so you've done that for a little bit, but then you decided to transition into a different industry. What was your reasoning or rationale behind that?
Well, things are changing. I realized, and this is after I left when I was in Texas. I wanted to go back to school and finish my degree. I realized that the music industry was changing, right? The need for live instrumentation was there, but it wasn't at the degree of where it was when I first began. And so kind of having some level of insight into where things were going, I figured it would be best to have something else to back up my skills, right? Mm-hmm. And so transferable skills, although I was doing music, I was doing a lot of administrative work too, scheduling, emailing, organization, managing projects, dealing with personnel because I was subcontracting jobs out to musicians. Mm-hmm. So I realized that there were a lot of things that were transferable that I was doing in the music industry that kind of carried itself over into business.
Do you feel like you got burnt out in music in a way? Yeah. That you wanted to kind of go in a different direction?
At some level, yeah. I'll dare say it was a few years ago I just stopped playing altogether because the music no longer felt like art. It felt like work. Mm-hmm. The music, it no longer felt like I was creating. It felt like, all right, I need to go in, do this, play this, make sure it's all together. And so the joy and the artistry was taken out of it. And it felt like, and there's nothing wrong with 9 to 5, but the artistry didn't feel like artistry anymore. It felt like just going to work.
Yeah. Is there, are you still looking for that kind of joy, or have you found a way to get that back?
Found a way to get it back. Yeah, definitely found a way to get it back. One, I have a piano at my home, so playing is always great, just for my own leisure. But then two, working with the local ministry, working with the local church, right? So it's kind of my way of giving back, my way of really just pouring back into others without it necessarily feeling like, okay, you're on a plane today at 3. When you land, you have sound check. When you land, you have rehearsal. When you land, you have a show. And then as soon as that show is over, you eat, you get on the plane, you go to another city. So it takes away that burden of it, but I still get to do what I love to do.
Yeah. Do you find that whatever you're doing currently, that you run into the same challenge of like it becomes monotonous or it becomes just kind of work and the passion kind of leaves a little bit?
What do you mean?
So maybe let's delve into kind of what are you doing today? Like what is your role or what's your kind of day-to-day activities?
Yep. So my day-to-day as CEO of the consulting firm, I launched it off the notion that my ideas were worth something, right? I was working in the corporate space for a while, and even prior to working in the corporate space, I remember talking to a manager. We was, having lunch, having a conversation. We were sitting down having lunch, exchanged ideas, called me 3 or 4 months later, like, you saved us almost 9 figures, $100 million. Based off, say, if you consider changing this process, do this, you can save them 9 figures. And it was at that point I realized, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong industry. That I can really go into this for myself and show people, whether they're an entrepreneur, whether a government entity, whether they're a corporation, show them how they can scale and build their industry and build their business to a place where they can make more money. So for the entrepreneurs, I show them how to scale their business, right? Listen, what do you need to, and we throw these words out there like scalability and making sure that, they can grow, but really it's about revenue increase. So I show the entrepreneur how to increase their revenue, right? Or I can show the corporation how to streamline their processes so, they aren't overspending and they're getting the most value for their time and their money based out of their employees. Same way across the board. So same concept, just different methodologies of going about doing it. And I realized that, okay, for me, this is what I love. I'm process driven. I love seeing things go from A to Z. And so I kind of found my niche. I found the thing in which I'm passionate about. And so I went back to school, got my MBA, getting my doctorate in business. I'm almost done with that currently in strategic leadership and operations management, right? Six Sigma, green belt. So it's like these things about process, right? It drives me. It sends me up a wall in a good way. It makes me excited.
So is it before, when you were in music, you were part of the everyday production of whatever it was, and now you're more of in the consultant kind of a role where you analyze what's going on right now with the business, and you figure out what would be the more efficient or better way of increasing revenue, profit, and so on. So it's almost like now you can figure things out with your mind and give direction, but you don't necessarily have to do it yourself on the daily basis for that business.
Exactly. I can see it from 30,000 feet in the air and navigate people to where they want to get to versus me being there on the ground with them saying, okay, let's go ahead and do it. I can kind of walk them through.
Right. So there are different personality types, and some people do better where when they're given direction, they execute well, but they don't want to really think too much about the direction or what they need to do other than what's on the ground level kind of a thing. And then other people are better at looking at kind of the vision, the bigger picture, and then setting the strategy behind it, but not necessarily executing it themselves.
Exactly.
Right? So like everybody has a good role to play in every organization.
And that's how we drive success. It is, everybody has a role to play and everybody has their part to play. And if everyone does their part well, we all win.
Right. Yeah. So kind of on your journey from music to now, have you had any mentors or people that kind of spoke into your life and kind of helped you figure out direction or at least resolve whatever challenges you were facing at the moment?
No, yeah. So there's a group, and I've labeled them the Brain Trust, right? There's a group of about maybe 5 or now 6 people, 6 individuals, but they're all in different disciplines in life. There are some that are spiritually based. There are some that are business based. There are some that strictly deal with, emotional well-being, emotional wellness. And so this small group, this small collective group of people that I have learned to entrust with my journey in life, they've been there. They've been there to kind of walk me through the red tape, walk me through the bumps in the roads, and really hold me accountable to the things in which I'm looking to do and achieve.
And as far as this group, is it basically like a group that in some ways you put together for yourself? Kind of, I mean, I'm phrasing it wrong, but but basically, is it more like almost like relationships that you developed or you and them developed with you and so on, and became this kind of core, loosely tied team that encourages one another? Or what is this group like?
I think over the years, it has kind of organically formed based off of life path and trajectory, right? As I'm going and as I'm growing and evolving into a much better version of myself that I try to do daily, you come across certain people. And as you come across these certain people, then conversations happen. And as conversations happen, you begin to, like say, crack open the shell a little bit, right?
Yeah.
More of that self begins to come out, and there's a level of trust that's built. Right. And so as an old mentor of mine used to say many years ago, he said, when you're dealing with people, you have to learn to expose a vein and not an artery. Right. So when you're dealing with people, you expose enough of yourself that, granted, everybody isn't going to be with you at the end of the race. But if it hurts, you won't bleed out. So as we're going and growing in life, these things and these people have kind of proven themselves to say, hey, not only are we just in it for the long haul, but we're in it for your best interest for you, without necessarily anything in return. Not necessarily say, hey, we want you to give us this when hey, we're investing in you so you can invest in others. And it becomes a circle of life.
Yeah. Is it more of a regular base meetings that you have, or is it more ad hoc, like, you meet once in a while or whatever, kind of randomly?
Initially, it was scheduled.
Okay.
Originally, it was scheduled because I needed some guidance. I needed to say, hey, wait a minute. How do I do this? How do I navigate this? What's my, these are my goals. I'm looking to achieve this, but I'm running into these things, right? And so because it was new to me, there was no real insight as to navigate the terrain. And so the individuals, they said, okay, this is where you want to go. Every week, we're going to have a conversation. And the critical portion of accountability for me was this. It was they would leave me with instructions and tasks to do. And if I didn't do it, then that was it. Because at that point now, it's a matter of, are you really serious about this journey? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to waste time? Now, life happens. We get it, right? And so it's not saying that we were batting 1,000 each and every week, but the consistency of really ensuring that we are doing what we have to do to make sure that we are moving in the direction we need to move to be successful.
So at that time, those meetings, was it with like the whole group, or is it like one person from that group or couple or whatever?
Yeah, depend on the subject matter. Like sometimes it was, for instance, I would talk to one and she would be able to say, hey, listen, your life path based off your history and where you're trying to go, you need to cut this out, you need to cut this out, you need to cut this out and focus on these things. But it was in focusing on these things, I'd have to bring someone else in. Mm-hmm. These things tie into your area of expertise. So now it's the both of them talking, and then the both of them speaking to me saying, okay, well, we understand that you're saying he needs to cut these things out, but if he's going to do that from a business perspective or from an emotional perspective, right, then these are the things that have to align with where he's trying to go. So it just depends. And there's been some instances where, I like to say, we had to come to Jesus and we all sat down on one call, or we all got together for lunch and just hammered everything out, hammered life out.
Nice. And was that like in the same physical location, or was it more like remote? Like those people are spread out? Or
now they're
local?
spread out. But before we were, I say we were travelable. I think that's a word, travelable, right? we were able to get to the same place. We were able to kind of get to the same place more sooner than not. So we'd schedule a meeting and say, hey, listen, I need a day and a half, and we'd all converge to the same place, grab a conference room, sit down, order lunch, dinners, and just walk through. And I'm going to be honest, some of the conversations weren't easy.
Yeah.
Because they really say that looking into the mirror is sometimes the hardest thing. And so sometimes when you really see yourself, you have to ask yourself, okay, is this what I want to be? Is this the direction that I really want to go in? And so sometimes you really need people that can say, hey, time out. You're doing these things is going to be detrimental to yourself in the future. But when you don't know any better, you don't know any better.
Yeah. So definitely having advisors helps out.
Helps out.
Especially if you want to improve yourself, improve your future, and so on.
Definitely. And I think it's good to have more than one. I'll put it in context back to music, right? When I was in music, I had a manager and an agent. Mm-hmm. My agent's job was to find me work, was to get me paid, because the agent got paid when I got paid. My manager's job was to guide my career. So my manager would say, you don't need to do that show, because where it is, it's not good for your branding, it's not good for your image, it's not good. So, but the agent was saying, hey, I got this on the calendar, I got this, because they're just looking at the revenue. My manager's job was to say, I don't think that's the best fit for you.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like in that case, you have two people who have slightly different focuses. One is focused on long term and one is focused on short term. And it's not like one is wrong and the other one's right. They're both right, because you need both, but you got to find the balance between the two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where the trusted advisors come in the business world now, or my personal life, personal and business, that each of them have a role to play in getting me and guiding me to where I need to be successful.
Yeah. What are some stories or things from the music world that you can share? Something fun or like, yeah.
I think it's 2011. 2011 or 2013. I'm trying to think. It's somewhere between circa 2011 2013, right? In Los Angeles at the Grammys. Grammy week is you have the Grammy Awards, the ceremony on Sunday, but like the week leading up to it, it's just one big concert. Whatever genre you listen to, whatever you're in, like there's music happening all over the city, you name it, like you can go see your favorite artists, right? So it's Saturday night, the night before the awards. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, want to go get some food and go back to the hotel and so I go get some food, And then I stumble upon this theater, and I have no idea what's going on. But I'm just thinking it's just another show, right? Because everybody's been performing all week long. Get there, and it's like, Mike. And I'm like, first off, who's calling? My name is like, Mike, are you coming in? I was like, I don't have a ticket. I don't have any credentials to get in there. It's like, nah, here, take mine. Like, look, I'm leaving, take mine. So we walk into this space, and it is an open mic concert. I think the Roots are on stage playing. I'm familiar with the band, like that they play on a Jimmy Fallon show now, right? The Roots are on stage, and so everybody you can imagine is just in the theater, singing, enjoying, and so the MC would see somebody, I'm like, oh, you're next. And so the person would just come like, all right, I'm about to sing these songs. And it was just a round robin, like one long concert to like 5:30 in the morning of just good music, good energy. And it's like, I'm exhausted, but this felt great.
Were you out there singing?
No, I wasn't singing. No, I was not. No. You do not want me singing on nobody's microphone today. Not at all. But it was just good to be in the mix. We talk about, the work portion of it. That portion didn't feel like work because I wasn't on stage playing. I just had a chance to just enjoy the music, enjoy the energy, enjoy the camaraderie amongst people, because there's other musicians in the building as well. So I just had a moment to just breathe, decompress, but still have a good time.
Were you just you were just enjoying it, or were you actually playing there?
I was a spectator at that point because, again, I was walking by with food. I was getting ready to go back to the hotel, and somebody saw me. Was like, "Are you coming in?" And I was like, "No, I don't have credentials. I don't have a badge." And it's like, "Here, just take mine. Just go ahead and go. I'm ready to leave. Enjoy the rest of the night." And it was like, "Well, it's 1:00 in the morning. I don't know what it is." But they ran until almost 5 a.m. It was beautiful, and so I got a chance to just really soak in and just enjoy, because normally I'm on stage playing, normally I'm on stage working, but at that point I got a chance to just really enjoy the music.
To be the audience.
I got a chance to be the audience, man. It felt so great.
Yeah. So from your bio, you've written a book, right? Like, can you share a little bit more about what book you wrote? What's the topic of the book?
Sure. This was, I want to say, a year, almost 2 years now, about a year or so ago. I wrote a book entitled "The Church Post-COVID: Staying Relative in a Digital Age." I wrote this book as I've been involved in ministry for quite some time, and post-pandemic doing research, about 50,000 churches closed between March of 2020 and May of 2023. My heart broke. I said, this can't be the way. And so I'm looking into it and doing the research and just trying to figure out what was going on. And there were I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it. There were some similarities across many of the doors that closed and what the data represented. And so I learned that, a lot of churches do church well. Like Sunday morning, they go to church, they do church well. But the business and the administrative side of how to operate and run the church wasn't necessarily running as fluently as it should. And so I wrote the book really to kind of offer some guidance, right? Offer guidance to pastors, leaders, and even laymen who's like, listen, post-COVID, our church hasn't been the same. What can we do to kind of get things back to where it were? And so I wrote the book kind of as a guidebook to offer guidance and framework and even advice. My email address is on there as well. If leaders want to reach out to me from there, just say, hey, listen, how can we transition, our ministry in this, I like to, as they call it, the new normal, right? This new environment that we're in, and what does hybrid ministries look like? And so I wrote it to offer a sense of guidance to leaders and laymen alike.
So was it mostly due to financial issues that the churches closed, or was it something else, like related to culture or related to certain beliefs or other things?
Great question. Great question. As I was unpacking a lot of the data and really analyzing it was a combination of a few things. For some, it was finance. For some, it was church culture. For some, it was understanding the shift that took place in those 3 years, right? And so, as we unpack and feel what that means, finances, right? some churches and ministries just didn't have the finances to stay open because the people left. They never came back, right? For some, it was culture. What does hybrid ministries look like? So you want your people to come back into the building, then you have some who are online. So what does that really look like, right? What does having a hybrid ministry look like? What does having an online ministry look like that goes beyond just watching the service on TV? Because in my head, people still need to be ministered to beyond just watching it on screen. So do you have something in place that allows people to have the conversation with your online ministry, right? Or do you have ministers in place to speak to those who are online, right? So what does that look like? And then we talk about, from a tech perspective, now we start talking about infrastructure. Do you have the things, the people, the tech, the infrastructure in place to support all of what you're doing across the board?
Yeah. Do you feel that after COVID, that kind of that culture shifted within the church? Yes. And what is that shift like? Like what's happening?
No, these are great questions, man. These are great questions. So it was a shift. There has been a subsection of people, rightfully so, that say, hey, listen, we can watch our ministry online. And that's a very fair assessment. But culturally, church is more than just watching the service. For some, church is community. For some, church is a collective group of people that believe the same. For some, church is a support group. So when you take away the element of being together in the same space, in the same room, we kind of lose that element of community and connection, and then it only just becomes, I'm watching it on the screen. So a shift has taken place, and I'd like to see, and this is personal, this is just Mike speaking, right? Personal. I'd like to see it come full circle to a place where two can be happening at the same time. Where we can be in person, and for those who just can't make it, they can still be ministered to online, but beyond just watching it on TV. Like, they can leave their comments, or they can say, hey, I need prayer, and they can have a minister reach out to them and call them. Like, there's a way to have duality in how we're doing ministry versus just, all right, one or the other. I think it was coined the power of and. Two things can be true and can happen at the same time versus sacrificing one for the other.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to education, you're an advocate of education. Like, what does that mean? Like, define that. Yeah.
I think that's great. I call myself a lifelong learner, as somehow I always find myself going back to school to study something, right? But I'm an advocate of education. I believe that education is really the bedrock and foundation of society. Like, when we have those that are educated, then we can really move our society in a place that's moving forward. And so I believe in learning. I believe in studying. And that's whether it's the academic portion of studying, or whether we're studying trades, or whether we're like, there's so many different facets of education, but learn something. Learn something, do something that's going to push you and your family, or you and your community, or you and your circle to whatever the next level looks like. Learn something, do something, be something.
Yeah. What do you think of today's kind of formal education system? Like, how well is it doing? How well is it, like, teaching the younger generations? And so
Big question. You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I think our schools can do a better job in preparing our children for the future. I think our schools can do a much better job providing them with the resources and the options for them to pick a path forward in their life. But I don't think, and I don't feel that everything has to be geared toward a standardized test, because everyone learns differently. Everyone's idea of success is different. So I think the schools have a responsibility to really provide students with the options that's going to provide them a path forward in their life. Whether it's a standard, K through 12 education, and you learn it, and you go to college and you work that through, great. If it's K through 12 and you pick up a trade and you're learning, because I personally know some plumbers and electricians and carpenters and like doing, yes, being great at what they do. And so there's multiple pathways forward. I just think the schools have a responsibility to educate our students in such a manner that provides them with these options that's going to give them success that they need in their future. And I don't think that they're doing so currently at this time.
Mm-hmm. What else do you think they can do better?
Well, offer options, right? I mean, you know, we have to learn and teach students not just what to learn to pass a test. We have to teach them actually what learning feels like, how to learn. Because if you learn how to learn, you can take that information and go into any industry. I've worked in music, I've worked in business, now I'm working in strategy, dealing in project management, but different industries. But when you understand how to learn information, that transcends all disciplines.
Right. So like learning how to think for themselves, learning how to like critically analyze things and figure out root causes, problems, and all of that kind of stuff.
Do that. That transfers into their personal life. That transfers into, okay, well, why am I not seeing the results I want to see? Right? It can be an introspective conversation and say, let's look at root cause. What am I doing or what am I not doing? Okay, I see these things are happening, but this is a symptom of something else. So it allows students an opportunity to critically analyze their own life, critically analyze the direction where they want to go, and take in that data and say, okay, I can make a difference. I can change.
Yeah.
So I think the schools have a responsibility to teach kids how to do those things.
Yeah. What advice would you give somebody who's young, who's let's say 11th grade, maybe 12th grade, maybe 10th grade, who's kind of looking forward to their life, like as far as what path they should take? Go to college, go to the military, go to trade school, or go to pick a trade or music, or how do they decide what they should do?
No, that's golden. That's a very golden question, because at 10th and 11th grade, I was strictly into music, and I knew you couldn't have told me at that age I wasn't going to be a high school band director. That was where my head was. That is what I knew. That's where I was going to go. But I will say this, as they're in high school, there's an opportunity to find out what you're interested in. Take time to, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Use those years to, yes, get your education, but also find out what you're really interested in. I think that if the schools do it right and provide apprenticeships or opportunities for students to kind of get these high school jobs outside of typical retail, but literally dive into the things that kind of make them light up. I think there's an opportunity between 10th and 12th grade to say, hey, listen, go for the thing in which you're passionate about, or watch this, try something new. Mm-hmm. Because it's in trying something new that you may learn, I don't like this, but I like this. Like there were portions of business where it was like, I don't really like accounting, but I like finance. Mm-hmm. I don't really like account, but I like managing projects, right? So it's sometimes you have to get thrown into certain arenas to figure out, okay, I may not like the totality of this, but I like this portion of it. Let me go investigate that further. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just being exposed to more things that are out there, more opportunities, what they could do, and then they can figure out what kind of suits them better.
Exposure is key. So I think, to your question, the school should really start developing these relationships with the business community, the trade community, the healthcare community. Like Charlotte has a hub of some major players in various industries. Mm-hmm. I think the school district has an opportunity to partner with these hubs and to give the children exposure to various industries to figure out what are they most interested in. You'd be surprised what you like versus what you're exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know what you don't know. That's it.
Yeah. So you pursued more higher learning, doctorate studies and so on. Like what motivated you to want to get like an official doctorate degree and so on? Like,
I think it's two sides of that conversation. As we say, I'm a lifelong learner. So if I was sitting still long enough, I said, you know what, I'm going to go get another degree. I was like, no, don't go back to school. I was like, no, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
She's like, no, don't go back to school. It's like, I already signed the papers. I'm good. Started, right? She's like, how long is this going to take? Couple years. We're good. We're okay. But flip side of that is this. Because I am passionate, right, about helping others reach their goals and providing them strategy and expert advice, I don't want to give someone information that I myself have not had a chance to digest and study. So if I'm going to go into business and help people grow and scale and be the best version of themselves as entrepreneurs, or help corporations, scale down and really increase their revenue, then I need to know what I'm talking about. And so for me, I don't want to go into anything half-baked. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go into anything, on a whim, like, yeah, I heard this or I saw this video and maybe this works. No, I want to come from a place where there's research and applicable data that says, hey, listen, these things work. These ideals work, and these theories have been proven in your industry. So let's go forth and do it.
Mm-hmm. So having theory, having experience, kind of putting it together, but going from some kind of scientific research or scientific method of
there's a method to the madness of there's some methods to the madness. It's like, hey, listen, I want to make, because again, I launched out into the deep, right? And so the purpose of the company is to provide strategy. Mm-hmm. But in order to provide strategy, you have to have somewhere to pull information from. And so for me, it's making sure that I am pulling from a wide range of information that's available to me in various different disciplines in the realm of business. I went back to school to get my doctorate in business. Say, hey, listen, okay, there's research, there's applicability. Okay, great. So now that I'm coming from a place of, I've been in the field working. I'm doing this. I'm looking at it from 30,000 feet in the air. But then other side of the conversation is, now there's research behind what I've done. And so I can provide clients with the best plausible solution for their situation.
Mm-hmm. So working with leaders, with entrepreneurs, what do you see as like an average positive and negative about the leaders? Like what is an average leader like in terms of the average mistakes that they make? And then what is the average leader that they do great?
No, fair. I'll tag it back to where we were a moment ago. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know, mm-hmm. right? There was a book that I read titled The E-Myth, mm-hmm. where it outlines various categories of those going into in their entrepreneurial endeavors, right? They speak of the entrepreneur, they speak of the technician, and they speak of managers, right? To your question, we have a lot of people who have jumped into business as technicians. They're passionate about something. They may have been doing something for 5 or 10 years, and they feel as though they know it inside and out. But when it's time to become a manager and running a business, that's where we run into a lot of the hiccups and a lot of the pitfalls. Because again, running a business is different than doing the job in the business. And so a lot of what I've seen similarities wise is that we have those that are just passionate. Hey, listen, I've looked it up. I've done my research. I've done this. I can do this. Yes, they can. They can do the job well. But the other side of running the business is the back of office, back of house stuff, administrative processes, making sure that, there's payroll that's done, making sure there's HR policies done, make sure you're marketing to your target audience and not just to family and friends, right? So, right, we see these things when we launch out, and it's a matter of, okay, let's kind of, you're in a good place starting off. Let's kind of bring you back and put you back on the rails to kind of get you where you want to get to.
Mm-hmm. And what about in terms of like a positive thing that you see, like things that stand out about leaders that they do the right thing? Like,
so even again, like a lot of leaders that I've seen doing, as we call it, the right thing, they've done their homework, right? Mm-hmm. They know their industry, they know what to do, they know what they want to achieve. The ticking point is how to get it done. So they've done their homework. Like, there's nothing more frustrating, at least for me, when we have these initial conversations and say, hey, listen, okay, what exactly is your goal? What do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know. Why are we here? What are we doing? What are we doing? Like, what's the purpose of this conversation now? Because if you don't know what you want to do, there's no way I can even guide you on how to get there if at the very least you don't know what you want to do. So I applaud many of the leaders and business owners that I've encountered, through time, that they've done their homework. They say, hey, listen, I've done all I can do up to this point. Now I need some help. And you got to appreciate that, because we all need help with something at some point in time.
Yeah, and I find that it's not just leaders, but like younger people that are just starting out. I think they get into that similar analysis paralysis where, like, I don't know what I want to be. I don't know what I want to do. So then they're like, they don't have that goal. So obviously they're not going to get anywhere. So what is some guidance that you would give to, whether it's a leader or whether it's somebody just starting out, in terms of how do you find out what your goal should be or what you really should be doing, whether it's with whatever business or a career or something like that?
It's a real good question. I often think of it like this. Find something that aggravates you and figure out a way to solve that problem. Mm-hmm. Because reality is, most businesses, successful businesses, are the ones that solve a problem for other people, right? If you need carpet laying down, then you go find a carpenter. That carpenter has a solution to your problem of you needing carpet, right? So to those who are starting out, my advice is to really sit back. You have the thing you're passionate about that you want to do, but find out the thing that really gets under your skin. Find out that thing that really, like, I just wish that they would do X, Y, Z. Find that and then do a deep dive in how to solve that problem. There is a high probability that there is a market and a niche for someone to solve that problem that it may not have been done in this area.
Yeah.
So you do that, you now have an opportunity to say you are the answer to someone's problem. And as long as you're the answer to someone's problem, you now have a customer base. You have a market base. And at that point, you grow and build your business.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good way to look at it. Sometimes we look at the positive, like what can I do that I like doing, or what motivates me, or what's my passion, or whatever. But it could be the negative. It's like, what is annoying me?
what gets on, because at that point, now from a business perspective, you're doing a few things. You're taking an analysis, right? And this is whether you're 16 or 63. You're looking at a problem and saying, okay, how do I solve this problem? When you solve the problem, there are other people who may have that same problem that needs to be solved. So now at that point, you just have to figure out, how do I market myself to those people? Because you already know they have the same problem. And they are looking for someone to say, hey, here's the answer right here.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to yourself and your motivation to continue to learn, where does that motivation come from?
I think it's about really making sure that I'm on my P's and Q's, right? And also being a good example. I have a 6-year-old daughter, right? So she's going into first grade. She sees dad studying. She studies, mm-hmm. Right? So it's all about, we talk about culture and value and inheritances. There are many different facets of culture and value and inheritances. So as we talk about me being an advocate of education, it's being shown in real time. Then, all right, yeah, we'll play, we'll laugh, we'll joke. But then, all right, I'm reading. You sit on the couch and read too. You read your book, I'm going to read my book. And I'm going to tell you about what I read, you tell me about what you read. And we exchange ideas.
It's a role model by example.
Role model by example, yeah. And so for me, I just think personally learning is fun. That's probably a me thing. I don't know I have no idea where it came from growing, but I always just loved school. Even as a kid, I loved school. I loved, like, it. For me, it was, okay, can I get straight A's this quarter? I remember when I got my first B, I was heartbroken. My mother's like, you got a B, you're good, it's okay. I was like, but what? And she's like, go outside, you're okay, you're okay, you'll live, you'll manage, you'll survive. But I was heartbroken, because for me it was like, okay, how can I push the envelope? How can I push myself a little bit more? And it wasn't any external pressure like my mom was saying, hey, you need to get. It was like, for me, it was a competition with myself. Like, okay, I got good grades, so I can keep it, so I can keep going even more. So
do you think that comes is it nature, nurture? Like, where does that come from? It's almost like nature for you, right?
Probably. It's probably nature. You know, I learned about some of my grands and my great grands and uncles and great uncles, and you know, as I go back to New York and talk to older cousins who are now in their 80s and 90s, and you know, just sit and listen and have these conversations. Yeah, there was some smart people back in the day. Like, we're talking, and it's funny because it's on both sides. I had a great grandmother who played the organ. Never knew it because she was deceased by the time I was born. Had no idea. But for me to be able to play it now, we're talking about genetics, right?
Yeah.
But then I also had like great uncles and you know, cousins who were computer programmers. That's all they did. Like they were doing coding, like computer coding in the 80s for like IBM. Had no idea. 'Cause by the time I came along, yeah, they were doing something else and old and just like, oh, you're just cousin Joe, right? Like, but I had no idea 30 years ago you were here. Like, so it's like there's some things that are just DNA, but I don't know. I love learning. It's fun for me. Super fun for me.
Yeah. What's like an accomplishment in your life that you're most proud of?
On what, like there's a lot of levels I can think of right now.
Whatever comes to mind.
Okay. Let's see. Biggest accomplishment in life, honestly. Yeah, this goes kind of personal and deep. We'll go there. We'll jump there. I think my biggest accomplishment in life is to be the biggest role model for my daughter. That she see that. So I have her full time. Like she's like she's with me. Like, and so she sees that her dad is working to provide a better life for her. Like it's one thing for, you know, for parents to say, hey, you know, I'm working to do this, but running joke in the house is this. It's like she loves Starbucks, like the strawberry lemonades from Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's like, Dad, can we go to Starbucks? And I'm like, not right now. I got a meeting. And she's like, but like, can we go before the meeting? I'm like, there's no time. And I was like, okay, how about this? You like Starbucks and Chick-fil-A? And she's like, yes. I said, what do we need to get Starbucks and Chick-fil-A? And she's like, well, you got to pay for it. I said, these meetings help me pay for Starbucks and Chick-fil-A. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll wait till you're done. And then she goes away, right? And like, it's a whole thing. It becomes a whole, and it's like, oh, she gets it. And then when I'm done, she's like, now can we go? I'm like, yeah, cool, we're good. And it's like, all right, great. So I think for me, it's pushing the needle forward. I think that as a parent, there's a responsibility to as best as possible, to give your kids a takeoff runway so they can start further than where you did when you became an adult. And so the work that's been put in now, you know, heaven forbid anything happens. If I stopped right now, by the time she become of age, she'll be okay. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really, really grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, children are definitely a great thing, I think, within the family. Like,
No, yeah, like if, you know, God forbid anything happens, like if she becomes of age, she can go to, like, she'll be okay if she decides to go to college. And again, I told her if she wants to open a business, she's gonna have to present a business plan. I told her the same thing. I said, hey, listen, it's not just because Dad has a business and you're gonna, if you want Dad to invest in your business, I need to see a business plan. And we teach that early in life. Like, hey, okay, you want a lemonade stand, or as she likes gummy bears, she's like, Dad, I can sell gummy bears. I was like, well, tell me about gummy bears. What is? She said, well, Dad, I can get 2 bags of gummy bears for $5, but each bag will give me about 10 Ziploc bags of gummy bears. So therefore, I can make approximately $25 if I sold all my gummy bears. I said, well, that's a pretty decent return on investment. So okay, cool, that works.
yeah.
Like that works. So like that, you know, it's fun for us, but it's like, it's cool. Like it's teaching certain things at an early age that, you know, the value of money and the value of work, right? Like it's not just going to be given to you.
Right. Yeah. What are some mistakes or failures you've made in your life, and what lessons did you learn from them?
How much time we got? How much time we got? There's a long list. There's a long list, right? It's a long list. No, oh my gosh. I remember the first time I went to college before I went on tour, and this was part of the reason why I went on tour, because I just thought that as long as I went to class, showed up, maybe did my homework, I was okay. My professors weren't playing any games. Like, there was some time I was studying music in school. I wasn't always practicing like I should. I was like, oh, well, it's the weekend. I can go out to this party. I can go here. I can do these things, right? Because, you know, you're young and in college. And then I get to class at 8 o'clock in the morning like, oh, my gosh, we have a test today. What am I supposed to? Yeah, no. Study. Do your homework, right? So, you know, it was a point, you know, my GPA dropped. It was like a 3.1, and at one point it got to like a 2.95, and I said, this is madness. This is absolute madness. I had to get myself back together. I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm thinking I'm failing school. You know, school costs too much. Like, I can't afford to get these grades. And so it's bad, right? Boom. Fast forward. Get to Texas. I'm just thinking, you know what? This is going to be great. Life is going to be wonderful. You know, I left the music industry. I'm going back to school. I'm going to do the right thing this time. But I was in a new city. Now, in Austin, Texas, no one told me that this is the live music capital of the world. Like, that's like, no one told me this going into Austin. But I get there and it's like, oh, shoot. All the things that I thought I was walking away from was right here in my backyard. I didn't have to walk far. I didn't have to travel to go play for a gig. I can go 3 blocks up the street. So what was I doing on the weekends during the week? Gigging, not doing home. I said, okay, I got to focus. That's why I just walked away from music altogether. I said, I got to focus. Because my grades were slipping. I was like, I can't do this again. So, you lose focus. You learn your lesson on some things, and you do better. You do better.
Yeah. So as far as kind of your goals or aspirations for, let's say, the next 10 years, is there something that you're looking to get to?
Yes. Although I said I wasn't going back to school. We'll see. But next 10 years, I'm working on a second book now, specifically to business owners, entrepreneurs, those looking to walk within this space as we transition into what I call the age of digital information and revolution. So much is happening at such a rapid pace that if we aren't aware of how to navigate our business and have the right processes in place, we'll get swept away so swiftly. So I'm working on a second book currently. I want to go to law school. I would like to go. We'll see what happens with that. But I want to understand business law, because as the business landscape is changing, business law will also change. And so again, I want to be able to understand it and to be able to explain it in such a manner that it's palatable for those that are in my orbit and in my circle. So I want to say within the next years, it'll be book, law school, and hopefully I want to get into teaching. I want to teach at the college level. I do. I would love to teach, at the college level, business, teach administration, business management across the board. So I'm hopeful within the next 10 years, those 3 things take place.
Nice. Some good goals.
Thank you. Definitely. Thank you. Yeah, we'll see about, 1 out of 3, because, I might get some pushback, but fingers crossed, man. Knock on wood. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. If you could have a dinner with anybody in the world, whether alive or dead, who would that be and why?
Whew. Let's see. Probably Bezos right now. Jeff. Amazon scaled from a bookstore to what it is now. I wonder what his thought process was. Like what made him shift his mindset to go from one place to the next? And then how did he scale it the way he did? Mm-hmm. Like, how did he begin to leverage UPS? And at one point, because he was only leveraging UPS to deliver. So I want to know what his mindset was to scale it in such a way that he switched from that to where it is now. Because that, it's everywhere. It's genius.
Have you seen the documentary on him?
I have not. I have not.
So
Does it
there's
go
one out
into
there.
it? Huh.
It goes a little bit into different phases of him kind of starting Amazon and people he worked with, arguments he had with people, with his wife, with.
I need to check that out.
Yeah.
I need to check that one out. Yeah, I need to, because I think about where he started and where it is, and it wasn't long. It didn't take long.
Well, looking back, it feels like it's not long, but I think from then to now, it felt probably.
Yeah.
I guess depends on which way you're looking at it.
Yeah, for us, we're looking like, oh, it just Amazon's popping. For him, was like
Yeah.
I was in the back and I was struggling and I didn't know it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
I would love to really do a deep dive in his mind, right? And really ask why.
Yeah, I mean, definitely would be good to find out from him. Like from outside looking in, it seemed like he was really focused on the long term, and short term he sacrificed everything pretty much on the short term. I mean, even from what I heard, I don't know, a few years now back, where investors or people who own the stock were like pressuring him to get profits like now, kind of a thing, and he was like not. He didn't have much profits because he was reinvesting everything into the future of the Amazon. So like the investors were like not happy with that.
Investors, shareholders,
Right,
we want
yeah.
to see our return right now.
Yeah.
No, yeah, like I would. Yeah, I think that would be one. I would love to just sit and peel back the layers of why and how.
Yeah. And then what book outside of what you wrote had the most impact on your life?
Art of War. Art of War has a very big impact, as well as it's two. Art of War, and then there is a business ethics book. I think what's the writer's last name? Hill, I want to say. Is it either Alec Hill or Alex Hill? But those two, right? Because Art of War teaches you how to, you start dealing with strategy and how to go, like dealing with battlefield and how to maneuver, right? But that book from Hill deals with business from an ethical perspective in many different facets.
Mm-hmm.
And so between those two, you kind of get the duality and balance on how to navigate the terrain and how you really want to shape who you are and how you conduct business.
Is there anything that kind of comes to mind from each book? Like, what was like one thing that stands out the most for you?
Yeah, in Art of War, first you got to study your opponent, right? You have to study them and know what exactly they're doing, right? That's the only way you're going to defeat them and beat them, right? From Hill's book, we start dealing with ethics from it's a Christian ethics book, but again, it's the morality portion of doing business. Oftentimes we see businessmen are just being shrewd and they just go after the bottom line and the dollar without any moral compass. So I believe there's a chapter in Hill's book that specifically deals with the morality in business and how, to conduct business with moral and values, but still turn a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So those two books for me kind of lend itself as a balancing act, for me, in terms of how I conduct business.
Yeah. As far as business or work and then home life, how do you balance the two? Is there such a thing as balance between the two?
It's tough. It's tough some days. There are some long days and long nights at times, right? Because I want to be present at home, but I also want to be present for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's a matter of I may be up early, taking care of things for clients, then I'm present at home, and then I'm up late finishing up work, and then rinse, wash, repeat. So it's a matter of balancing time. It's also a matter of finding an outlet for yourself, right? You have to have and build in some personal time for yourself so it's not always just work or always just family. There has to be some level of an outlet that allows you or me to really enjoy some of the hobbies in which I really, really love to do.
Yeah, that way you kind of de-stress or relax from.
Exactly. So I can be my
business.
best self for everyone involved.
Yeah. When it comes to your view on life in terms of like habits or model, like what what helps you process life and become a better version of yourself? Like what kind of habits do you have? How do you view the different parts of life, and do you have like some kind of a structure to it in your mind?
I love this question. Oh, I do. All right. So this is going to kind of bring our conversation full circle, right? From music to the brain trust of people to where. So for me, I play 17 instruments. That is. So I see a lot of the world as a composer would see writing a score. Mm-hmm. Each instrument in a score, they all aren't playing the same thing. Some have melodies, some have counter melodies, and you have percussion, you have rhythms, and you have counter rhythms, but it all comes together for a song. Translate that over to my life. There's many different facets of my life, right? There's work, there's family, there's education, there's hobbies, there's things in which, I'm learning to do, study, right? So for me, what I really like to do is understand, and watch this, even therapists too, because like, hey, I need to talk. I may not be able to reach the brain trust, but I need to be able to talk to someone right now. What's going on, right? Mental health and mental awareness. So for me, it's saying, okay, there are all these different components. I just have to choose which lane I'm driving in today. Mm-hmm. Today. Make every day, as best as you can, better than the one that just passed. And it's a win. I've learned to celebrate the micro wins along the way, right? Of course, we got the big lofty goals, but hey, you know what? This was a good week. This was a good day. Or you know what? Today wasn't as great as it could have been. Let's make tomorrow better. And you celebrate the micro wins along the way, and you'll really notice a trend. There was a point, I think it was, 2024? Yeah, so last year, I started the year off with a jar. Mm-hmm. And I put everything that was good that happened to me in the jar. So like end of the day, because I'd write a journal and like put in a jar. My birthday's in April. You'd be surprised from January to April that the jar was overflowing. And so didn't go back and read everything, but just the visualization allowed me to realize that every day won't be perfect, but it's always getting better.
Yeah. And I like your mental model of it being a song, let's say, or some piece of music. And it depends on every instrument and anything that makes some kind of sound. You can have an awesome song or music played, or it could be just noise, right?
It could be.
So how you align everything matters if you want to have a nice piece of music.
That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's how I approach it. That's how it makes sense to me on that level, right? So then I can say, okay, yeah, we might need to rewrite this line. Like this one don't sound too good with what I'm trying to do. So you rewrite the melodic line and just change it. Because as a composer, we are the composers or the authors of our lives, right? So we can kind of go back and say, I want to tweak this. I want to make this better. And we have the right to do it.
Yeah, definitely. So we're coming to the end. Anything you want to share about your business or anything else about your life?
No, first,
open
thanks.
mic.
For real. Thanks for having me. This has been an awesome experience. It's been awesome conversation to have. And to those that are listening, I am here to bring your vision to life. That is the purpose and the functionality of what we do. So we turn vision into strategies, and we bring those strategies, and we bring out success. So again, I thank you for this opportunity. This conversation has been absolutely amazing. And so listen, if you need someone to help you scale, need someone to help you grow, please feel free to reach out. You can find me on my website, www.jaspcf.com, or on Facebook, facebook.com/JASPCF. You can find me there, and looking forward to hearing from you. And thank you again. Thank you so much for the conversation. This has been amazing.
Yeah, it's been great talking to you. When it comes to your business, are you are you limited to a certain location, or are you kind of nationwide? Like
nationwide.
what do you do?
Nationwide.
Okay.
I believe that if we're going to grow, that we can do it from the room. We can do it via Zoom. But I want to be there for my clients nationwide. So I'm not just be held to North Carolina.
Yeah, that sounds great. One more question for you. So, what does the world need more of today?
Love and understanding. Yeah, we got to love more. And I believe if we love more, not from a place of receiving but giving, everyone gives love, then we can turn this thing around on such a beautiful level. Like, we love more, we understand more. Like, we can turn this thing around.
Yeah. Well, it's been great chatting with you, talking to you, kind of learning a little bit from you and about your life. Definitely been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.